Hello, Paradise Panther artists. This is Mrs. Telfer. Today we are going to learn about a French artist named Edgar Degas. He was known for his paintings, sculptures, and drawings. He is one of the founders of Impressionism, but he preferred to be called a realist. And his favorite subjects to paint were horses and ballet dancers. So let's get started learning more about our next master artist, Edgar Degas. Today, I have my camera with me, and I want to pretend to take some photographs. For the first photo, I want a formal, posed picture with everything balanced. Good. Now I'll pretend to snap your photo. Next, let's make it so the picture will not be balanced, and it looks very casual and unposed, so that it looks like you don't even know your picture is being taken. Thank you. Well done. Now, I want you to think about those two pictures I just took. Which one do you think will be more interesting? Do you prefer the formal, posed, balanced picture? Or do you prefer the casual, unposed, unbalanced picture? If you chose the casual, unposed picture, then you are like our artist, Edgar Degas. Now, look at these two paintings of the rider on the horse. Which one of these two paintings do you think are like Degas? Yes, it is the one that is on the left, that is casual and unposed. Degas took many ideas from the art of photography, which was new in his time. He liked to paint scenes that looked as if the people in them were unaware they were being watched. So when we see his paintings, we feel as though we just happened to look in at an unexpected moment. Before we peek in on some of those scenes, let's peek in on Edgar Degas and see what he looked like. From this self-portrait by Degas, can you tell what kind of person the artist was? Was he friendly, easygoing, or modest? No, he was unfriendly, shy, and conceited. By the age of 23, Degas had developed a reputation for being difficult and stuck up. He came from a wealthy family in Paris, France, who encouraged him in his art. He started his interest in art by going to the famous art museums of Paris and copying the pictures of the old masters. He devoted his life to art and spent most of his time alone in his studio with his paints and pastels. He was part of a group of artists called the Impressionists, who were changing the art world of Paris with their new ways of painting. Have you ever been to a horse race? If you had your camera along, could you have taken a photograph just like this? Yes, you could. Degas loved to go to the racetrack. Degas wasn't interested in who won the races, but he loved to sketch the animals and riders in all different kinds of activity. How does Degas show that the horses are moving? Yes, he uses the positions of the horses and the jockeys. Are the horses and the jockeys overlapping each other? Yes, they are. Overlapping is one way to make a painting have a sense of space. We can tell which horse is closest to us. Can you find one more way Degas created space or distance in this painting besides overlapping? Well, he used the size of the horses and the riders. He also used the clarity of the colors and their details to create space or distance in the painting. Now, I want you to picture a fast racehorse and a ballerina twirling on her toes. What do a racehorse and a ballerina have in common? They both show movement. Movement greatly interested Degas, so much so that he devoted many hours of study to it. As you can see, ballet was his other interest. But can movement be shown in a sculpture? Let's find out. In order to make the finest paintings of ballerinas, Degas made model sculptures like you see here. To create the sculpture, he had to study the ballerina from all angles. Do you think sculpture helped Degas in his study of ballerinas? Yes, it did. This sculpture by Degas was made for studying only. He never intended it for display as a work of art. It is a very small sculpture, only about 3 feet high. Today, it is Degas' most famous piece of sculpture. The model who posed for Degas' sculpture was Marie, a 14-year-old girl from a poor family who auditioned and made it into the Paris Ballet Company. Becoming a ballerina was a good way for young girls from poor families to earn a living. The Paris Opera is the oldest ballet company in the world and was founded by the King of France hundreds of years ago. Another reason Degas began sculpting was because his eyesight was failing. Wouldn't that be a tragic thing to happen? Why do you think sculpture would be a better medium for an artist with poor eyesight? Yes, sculpture focuses on using one's sense of touch. Let's go with Degas to the Paris Opera House. He would go and carry his pencils and sketchbooks and spend all day watching and sketching the ballerinas as they practiced, performed, or even during their lessons. Go ahead and imagine Degas, all dressed up in a fancy suit, climbing this magnificent staircase to go behind the scenes to catch the dancers nervously preparing to go on stage in a few minutes. Here, the ballerinas are doing a last check of their dance costumes to make sure everything is in place. Then the orchestra begins, and that is the ballerina's cue to enter the stage and start performing. Degas caught it all in his sketches, behind the scene and sitting in the audience as well. Let's return now to see the hard work that ballerinas put in for their on-stage performances. I want you to think of a title for this painting. Take a careful look at what is happening and see how many different things you can discover going on. The real title is The Dancing Class. Notice how everyone is thinking of something different and paying very little attention to what others are doing. Does it seem as if someone snuck in and took a quick photograph? Yes, it does. Are all the ballerinas standing the same distance from the front of the room? No, they're not. How can you tell? Well, some ballerinas are close and some are farther away. When things are far away, they seem smaller, unclear, or blurred. When things are close to us, we can see them more clearly and they seem larger. So Degas made small, unclear ballerinas who look far away. He painted larger, more detailed ballerinas to look close up. If a painting looks deep, we say that it has depth. Can you find the ghost ballerina? Go ahead and point to her on the screen if you find her. That's it, she's in the mirror. Degas painted the image of two dancers in the small mirror. The girl on the right, with the black ribbon around her neck, is about ready to dance across the floor. The ballerina on the left would be a dancer in the right-hand side of the room. But Degas only painted part of the class, so we don't get to see these dancers. Don't you think it is more fun to see a ghost image in the mirror than the actual girl? Yes, me too. Degas would take his sketches back to his studio and experiment with placing dancers in several different locations on his canvas. Then he would just paint a room for the dancers from memory. In order to transfer his small sketches to larger canvases, he used grid lines. Artists use these grid lines to help them create correct space and size while painting. You will be using Degas' method of drawing with grid lines in your art activity with Mr. Tyler. Degas was quite different from his fellow Impressionist artists because most Impressionists like to paint outdoors. Degas always painted inside his studio, sometimes from the sketches he made at the racetrack or at the ballet. Now, I want you to look at the composition or arrangement of this painting. Are things arranged evenly? No, they're not. Is one thing on the left side balanced by another thing on the right side? No. This uneven arrangement is called asymmetrical. An evenly arranged painting is called symmetrical. Try this with me. Let's pretend our fingers are ballerinas in a Degas painting. First, let's use both hands and make a symmetrical balance. Go ahead and hold up 2 fingers on both hands. Now, let's make an asymmetrical balance. Go ahead and hold up 3 fingers on one hand and 4 fingers on the other. Do you see how it is not even or balanced on both sides? This is called asymmetrical. Can you tell me whether this is a symmetrical or asymmetrical arrangement? You're right, it is asymmetrical. Another way to judge is to cover up one half of the painting and see if the other half looks nearly the same. Notice the woman. How many arms do you see? You're right, we only see one. Again, Degas wants his paintings to look casual and unplanned, so he cut her off. In art, we call this cropping. Do you think the woman was surprised that all of her was not in his finished painting? Yes, I'm sure she was. Let's see how well you remember all the techniques Degas used in his paintings. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you see these words fit into this painting. Do you see overlapping? Yes, give me a thumbs up. Do you see a painting that is symmetrical? No, give me a thumbs down. Do you see an image outside? No. Give me a thumbs down. Do you see cropping? Yes. Give me a thumbs up. Do you see depth? Yes. Give me another thumbs up. Next, you will notice a big change in Degas' artwork. As Degas' eyesight became worse, he was forced to give up oil painting and work more with soft chalk pastels and charcoal. Oil paints are good for painting detail, but pastels are not. Degas found that with pastels, he could leave out the details that he could no longer see. How are these pastels very different than the oil paintings you have seen so far? You're right, they are blurry, the colors are brighter, and there are fewer details. Look how close to the dancers he has brought us instead of looking at them from afar in a deep room. Are their faces blurred? Yes, they are. Let's compare the pastel faces we see here to an oil-painted face. Which painting is more detailed, clearer, and sharper? You're right, it is the painting on the left, the woman with chrysanthemums. This is an oil painting. The one on the right was made with pastels. By the year 1907, at the age of 73, Degas became blind and had to give up his art. He felt extremely lonely and empty with this void in his life. He would walk the streets of Paris with the help of a cane, but he was still able to enjoy the two passions in his life, just in a different way. At the ballet, he could hear the music and imagine the beautiful dancing he knew so well. At the racetrack, he could hear the pounding of the horses' hooves and the excited announcements detailing the race. You've been such good photographers and listeners today. Here's a final look at the art words we learned for our master artist, Edgar Degas. You did a great job recognizing how Degas used depth, movement, and overlapping in his paintings. Now you get to try it in your own artwork with Mr. Tyler. I will see you next time, Paradise Panther artists. Have a great day.